it's not laying very large eggs. So I'm going to show you ways in which we can differentiate or separate what we do in our personal credit and then what you can do in the business credit environment, which actually rewards you for putting traffic and carrying credit lines or carrying balances, etc. So I've been doing this for 22 years. I've been doing credit optimization for 15 of those. Now, what Credit Sense is a unique way of actually building credit profiles. Notice I didn't say scores. If you have a perfect profile, you will have a perfect score. The scores measure the contents of your credit profile. So what we want to do is actually learn what the features are of a perfect 800 plus credit profile. That's what we're going to do. Imagine there are 38 characteristics of your credit profile that FICO measures. FICO is Fair Isaac Company's scoring algorithm that 95% of lenders use. Okay? 38 different characteristics. Credit repair only deals with 8 to 10 of those. So even if you have bad credit, you can raise your credit score without deleting a single negative item. We'll cover that as well. So if you know the rules of the game, can you win the game?
Yeah.
Can you win a game if you don't know the rules?
No.
Never. Okay? So that's what we're going to take a look at. A little bit about my organization. For the last 17 years, I've had a A+ Better Business here, Business Bureau, BBB rating, and I earned it the hard way. I'm not accredited. I'm not accredited, which means I didn't pay for my good rating. I earned it by having one complaint in 15 years. And my one complaint, bless their heart, was a self-service complaint. They bought one of my kits, and they didn't like it, and et cetera, et cetera. Not a single full-service person has had a complaint. Why? 95% of the time, I have a money-back guarantee. I deliver 95 results for 95% of my clients. 3% of my clients get a refund, 2% don't want a refund even though they qualify because they're only 5 or 10 points away from having that Tier 1 score. And so they don't want their money back, they want the score, and we keep doing it for them. So I've earned this, and I'm extremely proud of what I've been able to create. But that doesn't matter to you. What matters to you are my results, right? The results of credit optimization. We are able to create up to 100 points per year. If you're in the 400s, that's going to take 2 or 3 years. 500s, 1 to 2 years. If you're in the 600s, I can get a Tier 1, which is a 720 to 760 within 12 months. Okay? And so depending on what you want, and we'll discuss why an 800 score is important, but again, you don't care about your credit score. Trust me, you don't. You care that lenders care about your credit score. And that's why we need to know what the rules of the game are so that we can continue to do that. And what happens when we know what the rules of the game are? We are able to create 17.5, 15, 8, 20,000. There's $100,000 lines of credit out there for people who have Tier 1 and 800 plus credit scores. And we'll talk about kind of how to do that. That's part of my agreement with you today. As I told you, I'd give you 45 points that you're going to be able to get for yourselves when you leave this room today. All right, so what would you do with an 800 plus credit score? Dominate real estate investing, increase the number of hard money loans. I'll tell you a story. I did a presentation to a REIA group in Utah. And before me, there was a hard money lender who was a presenter before me. Did his whole pitch, sat down, people were wowed by his offer, and his offer was if you have a 710 credit score, I'll give you 85% on property. And people were really excited about that. And so I came up, started my presentation, didn't know the guy, I know him now, and I said, Dave, if you have an 800 plus credit score, what would you do for these folks? And he goes, I'll give you a $500,000 line of credit and do 95% on the properties. Why? We'll learn why, but the FICO score is such an amazing indicator of repayment history that lenders will trust it and trust it and trust it. And somebody said, well, aren't you just manipulating the credit game? I said, yes. No, that's like saying that you are manipulating insurance rates by going to the gym and eating well. Are you manipulating interest rates? No, you're following the tables, the actuarial tables. You're following the rules. You're playing the game and getting the best rates possible. You play the credit game well, you deserve the 800 plus credit score. There's no way to cheat it. You cannot cheat that score because you have to. Even if you haven't, I'll throw something out there. Even if you have some people try and they buy a trade line or they become an authorized user on somebody else's account, right? Guess what? That's only worth 40% of the points that being your own owner of an account. You can't authorize user your way to an 800 plus credit score. Okay? So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Now, what's the fuss? Well, there are 38 characteristics of your credit profile. Only 10 of them deal with negative indicators. Okay? That leaves 3 times the number, because people say, I don't need credit repair. Well, of course you don't need credit repair. If you've got a great payment history, but do you have a 600 credit score profile? Do you have a 700 credit score profile? Or do you have a profile that actually delivers you an 800 plus credit profile? I'll give you an example. Some of you this is a Credco mortgage credit report from one of my clients, and they're from Thousand Oaks. Hey, fancy that. All right, so notice what happens there are certain things that red flag you. All right? Now, our objective for you is what we call automatic underwriting. You know what automatic underwriting is? They put in your information into the computer, hit submit, you get a yes or a no. No human eyes look at it. Why would we say we want automatic underwriting? Any ideas?
Less eyes, the better.
When a human being looks at your file, you are now subject to whether or not they had their coffee yet, whether or not you're the first file of the morning, whether or not they had a fight with their spouse, whether or not they are in a good mood, bad mood, or their lunar phase is on full moon and they're going to be prowling the streets that night. We have no idea what their personal thing is. And every single one of us that have ever been in a decision making, we can honestly tell ourselves, if not each other, you know what? I have denied somebody. They could have probably passed, but at the DMV, wherever we are, no. Just because we felt spiteful that day. Well, guess what? We're also on the receiving end of those, right? I do not want me or you or any of my clients being reviewed by a human being, ever. So we want to stay in automatic underwriting. And the way to do that is to make sure you have no red ink anywhere on your profile when they pull it. Are you following me? So this one says, oh, possible red flags detected, further verification recommended. They're not going to send out an android to check it. They're going to give it to a human being, right? So further verification required for possible detection of fraud. It's just you trying to get a mortgage, and now you're under further verification for possible fraud. Why? Oh, hardcore. You have 2 addresses on your file. Uh-oh, we better take a look at this. And then there's a variation on the address, and therefore identity scan alert. This is just a simple, by having 2. You go check your credit profiles. You'll have 3, 5, 7, 10 addresses. And they keep everything, absolutely everything that you give them. Now, you may not like what I'm about to tell you, but you have ratted yourselves out your whole life. Do you realize the credit bureaus only have what you tell the creditors, and the creditors only have what you tell them? So, part of credit optimization is identity. It's about finding the important features that FICO measures and making sure every single one of those are in line so that when you apply perfectly to a matching file at the credit bureaus. Now that doesn't sound difficult, but good luck. We have to actually enforce our own rights when it comes to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay? So let's liken the FICO 800 plus credit profile to a round hole. Okay? FICO has a perfect credit profile that will give you, literally, after 19 years, an 850 credit score. 850 credit score, okay? But you and I and most of the human beings on this planet have a square peg. And that square peg is anywhere between the 400 credit scores all the way to 760, maybe even 780. That square peg, we want to solve that square peg and what we've done here at Credit Sense, the credit optimization process actually divides those 38 areas into 8 steps. To make it kind of kitschy, I call it 8 steps to 800, okay? But there are 8 areas that we focus so that we can clean up every one of those point loss areas, okay? So when we take the FICO round hole, we want to meld the round hole, the square peg into the round hole so that you have a flawless credit profile. Now, part of my business is working with foreign nationals and adult children of real estate investors. My main marketplace, other than a few referrals, is real estate investment. I'm a real estate investor myself, but I love people who want to leverage their financial reputation into wealth. That's my favorite group of people. You guys know how valuable your credit is, right? Everybody tells you, hey, you don't need credit to do loans. But you ask anybody who has $1 million line of credit how easy it is to go pick up a property, okay? So I want you to have all the tools that you deserve to have if you know what you're doing. All right, so we're trying to put use the optimization process to maximize that 800 plus credit profile. The good news, bad news is that if you already have a profile, if you have a 600 something, we've got to get you off that 600-foot ladder and up the 800-foot ladder, okay? If you have a 700, 720 score, somebody came up to me, I don't remember who it was, somebody came up to me in this room and said, I've been at 760 for 10 years, okay? No, it's 720 for 10 years. They don't know how to go any further because they have a 760 profile. It's not going to happen. You will never go above that score. So we've got to get you onto that 800 plus. Now, let me give you a couple of ideas here, and my promise to you. These are a rough estimation of the tiers. When I say tier 1 credit score, I'm talking about that 720, well, I say 799, but the floor of a tier 1 for business lines of credit is a 60. For the best possible yield on your credit, on business credit lines, you want a 760. Okay? I'm going to take this off. All right. So there's a point of diminishing return, which says that some of you may actually be able to get 95 points if you're in the 500s. Some of you may only get 30 points if you're in the 700s from the things we talk about today. Because there's a point of diminishing return. The closer you get to 800, the less valuable each point is for the activities we talk about. Okay? All right. So continuing, there is the national average is about 690, 700. National average. You wouldn't believe this, but did you know that the lender sweet spot is also 690 to 700? FICO, the brilliant algorithm that it is, and it's been run on hundreds of millions of transactions and hundreds of millions of borrowers, they know that if they lend you money at 690, 700, they're going to get 95% of their money back. 95%. Problem is, in your rates, you're between a tier 2 and a tier 3. They're going to charge you 20 to 30% higher. They're going to charge you a premium to lend you here. They know they're getting 95% of their money back, so you do the math. They cost them 5% in bad debt, and they charge everybody else 20 to 30% to carry that money. You with me? They're making a killing at average. Now, the problem is, none of us, I pray to God, you wouldn't be here if you believed you were average, okay? But here's what's fascinating, and you'll love this. When you're in that average range, you're at tier 2 to tier 3. So they get to charge you 20 to 30% higher fees than tier 1. So guess how much your credit lines have to be for them to make the same amount of money at tier 1? They have 2 to 3 times higher. If they give you a $5,000 credit limit when your score is here, they're going to give you $10,000 to $15,000 credit limit here because they want to make the same number of dollars per person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Dollars per person. In order to get as many dollars as they get there, they got to give you more money. Who benefits? What?
You do.
We win when we have a tier 1 plus score. We get more available cash. And we'll learn how to manage that here in a sec. Okay, so here's how we do it. Number 1, and here's the first 8 to 15 points, your identity. Your objective is to have one version of your name, one address, one social security number, one date of birth, and one phone number on the credit bureau files. And then and then you want to document that on your driver's license, on your social security card and your driver's license. You want the exact same version of your name. Then you want to, every application you ever do in your entire lifetime for your personal credit, you want to use that exact version of your name to apply. So what do? You're protecting, first of all, you clean it up, you get one version. My name's Merrill Ray Chandler, Merrill R. Chandler, Merrill Chandler. There are 29 Merrill Chandlers on the credit bureau databases. Heaven forbid all the John Smiths and the Jane Reynolds, okay? There's hundreds, if not thousands, of those names. We've got to distinguish ourselves, so I got to pick one version of your name. That's worth 5, you clean all those up, every variation of your name is worth 2 to 3 points, depending on where you are on the score matrix. So the more you get rid of, the higher your score. More importantly, remember the example of the underwriting, the mortgage report that had all the red ink? You get rid of all of the fraud alerts and you get to stay in automatic underwriting. Am I making sense? Because if you're applying in the exact name that the bureau has for you, ding, you pass to the next, you pass go, and you collect your $200. Okay? So, 8 to 15 points is delivered by cleaning up your identity. All right, so your identity is the foundation, and if you don't take control and you are lackadaisical in how you do all of your applications, you're going to continue to give all of those, you're going to continue to keep that average credit score unless you do something about it. All right? Now, so here's part of the 5 to 15 points. Google opt-out pre-screen. Google opt-out pre-screen. Remove, people said, oh yeah, I tried to opt out, but nothing happened to my credit report. You have to opt out of every version of your name. You can't just opt out. And what pre-screen is you know how you get your credit card offers? And it says, oh, you've been approved for, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're not approved. It says in fine print, we're going to pull a credit report and see if you, but you're on a list. Now, FICO scoring software is designed to protect lenders. So the reason why your score goes up when you opt out is because when you're not on the databases, you're not getting these offers. And let's say you have 5 creditors. If you have 5 creditors and you get an offer that's a sweet offer, you want to apply for it, aren't you putting these 5 creditors at risk? So your score stays lower than if you opt out and your score goes up because you're not at risk. Does that prevent you from going and applying? No, but these offers are not dropped on your lap 3 or 4 times a week inside of your mailbox. You following me here? That's where some of the points come from. Okay, and clarity versus confusion. Gotta hold it. Gotta hold it. So, score strategy. Step 2 is we build an 800 credit score plan. What we're doing is, if we're in San Francisco and we're trying to get to New York, it's a whole different set of instructions than if you're in Houston trying to get to New York. Okay? So, we find out exactly where you are, and we build a plan to get you to the Big Apple. We want you to make sure that you have exactly the right plan to get you to that 800 score, because we may have to open accounts, we have to close some accounts, we may have to do something with your identity, inquiries, etc., etc. There's a whole custom plan. And each one of those plans is designed to get you to where you're going. Some clients, hey, I just want a new car. Hey, I just want a mortgage. And by and large, those aren't my clients. I'm looking for people who want to build a real estate empire. They want a half a dozen properties. They want a dozen or more properties. They want to actually build business lines of credit so that they can fund these acquisitions. So that's why I come to these events. All right? Now, the third area is recovery. Another 5 to 10 points here. Some people in the room will know this is worth 30 to 50 points, possibly. And I call it credit recovery because all of us don't have bad credit. But did you know that there are more point loss for accuracy than there are for bad credit? And I'll show you what I mean by that. Inaccurate and inconsistent credit reporting is the single greatest downplay in your credit profile. And I'll show you one of the things that it looks like. The second reason is data downloads. And creditors report to the bureaus. But the range of score that you have between, you've seen your credit report, some of 20 points, 50 points, 100-point difference between some of the scores. The reason why there's so much different is because different data is being reported to the bureaus, and so they're uneven, okay? So we want to narrow that gap. Ultimately, we want there to be less than 10-point difference between those scores. Your highest score, lowest score, no more than 10 points. Something's wrong if it's more than 10 points. Now, what's interesting, though, is that inaccurate, inconsistent information, credit report providers, here's something most people don't know. Credit experts don't even know this. There is no such thing as a credit score on your credit profile at the databases. Let me say this again. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax do not hold a credit score on you. Credit scores are applied after the fact, on the fly, to the data downloaded from the bureaus to the credit report provider. If you get something from Experian, it's actually a wholly owned subsidiary, and I've done this a dozen times with clients. Let's say you go get your free, you know how we get a free credit report every year from annualcreditreport.com, you can get a free one, right? If you go to Equifax and ask for the free credit report, they say, do you want to add a score to it? If you say yes, you go to a different thing, you don't get a consumer disclosure because you have to add, it's now a wholly owned subsidiary that's actually delivering the data. It's not this data, it's now downloaded, and a score is applied because scores are applied to the data that's downloaded. If you have bad downloads, you get bad scores, guys. If you're not getting complete data downloaded from the repositories, you're not getting a complete report. So I don't care if you have a 760. You may well deserve a 780. Because if they're not downloading the data correctly and uniformly across all three bureaus, you're not getting all the points. You know how algorithms work, right? Perfect match yes, perfect match no. It's just a zillion yes-no questions. Perfect match yes, perfect match no. If you do not have perfect matches in this data, you don't get the points. Just like, remember back in the day, algebra? If you have a missing number in that formula or that equation, right, it's not going to calculate. You're not going to get an answer. And so FICO keeps your scores low. It applies scores or holds it back, depending on whether or not you have all the data. Are you following me here? Okay. Now, here's another thing most people don't know. Free information. Positive accounts can count 50 points for you or 5 points for you and still be positive. If you have a revolving account, if you have a credit card, and it has a 95% balance, it may be positive, but it's only giving you that much in your overall count. Am I making sense? So, but the opposite is also true. People don't know this. People think credit repair is the answer to everything. It's not, okay? Because a negative account can count 50 points against you, or only 5 points against you, and still be a negative collection, late pay, bankruptcy. People go, oh, I have a bankruptcy on my credit report. Really? If it's over 2 years old and has age passed, it's counting more like this. Most lenders at the end of 2 years don't care because FICO is not database policy. The credit bureaus say, oh, we keep this stuff on for 7 years. FICO knows that after 24 months, your behavior has changed enough, your financial situation has changed enough that you are worth giving money to, and so the scores go up, and it goes from here against you to here against you. So here's a problem with credit repair. If you have let's say you have a 15-year-old Citibank that has that's closed, but has a 30-day late that's 2 years old. Credit repair says, oh, we got to get rid of that. Do you realize that the 15 years positive months is worth way more than the 5 points that's counted against you because I had a 30-day late 24 months ago? But credit repair says, kill it. And not me. Because guess what? After 7 years, that derogatory notation goes away. You have 3 more years that positive accounts count for you. I want that 15 years back. I have a long-term plan for my clients. And if it's only counting this much against me, with all the other 28 ways to build a credit score, I can create score around that derogatory account. Are you following me? Credit repair is like you want to build a house, right? But you only got a hammer. So you treat everything like a nail. And you're just pounding the crap out of stuff instead of intelligently looking at how the game is played and playing the game. Fair enough? All right. So traditional credit repair, the third reason why you can lose is traditional bad credit. All right? So if it's erroneous, inaccurate, or unverifiable, traditional repair rarely gets you to 760 and above. If you were a tier 1 and then you had a bad credit and then you got rid of all the other credit, you might return to that tier 1. But if you have a 720, you're not going to get a 760 by getting rid of negative items. Okay? So dispute letters are only 8% of our efforts. Traditional credit repair techniques are only 8% of our efforts. Now, the interesting thing is traditional credit repair is only about 30 to 40% effective, and so we go after low-hanging fruit and then build score all the way around it. And it's very difficult to get it off, or you can't guarantee that if you get a collection account off of TransUnion, it's also going to come off of the other 2 bureaus. So if you're pulling a 3-bureau mortgage credit report and you still have a negative item on one of them, it still counts against you, right? So that's why we want to build score rather than just go for deletions. Now, let's take a look at payment strategies. Another 5 to 10 points. Did you realize that if you pay, there are two fields on the credit bureau that report to the bureaus from the creditors. One field says due date. The other says date that it was paid or credited to the account. If those two are the same, 90 days in a row, 3 consecutive payments, you get bonus points, up to 5 to 10% per account, per trade line. So another way to pick up 5 to 10 points is for you guys to don't pay before, even a day before, don't pay after. Whatever accounts that are listing on your credit profile, on your credit report, if you pay those 90 days in a row on the due date, where the payment is credited on the due date, you'll pick up another 5 to 10% worth of bonus points. Okay? If you go and pay late, that 15-day, where you pay a fee or whatever, you're actually docked twice that number of points, and your score goes down, even though it still has a positive notation. Even though it's counted as positive, you're losing points between that 5 and 50. Make sense? Okay. Now here's another one. I had a guy had a Discover card, and his score was like 690s. And when he fixed this, it stayed above 730 every single month. So here's another way to pick up these points. Synchronize your due dates and your reporting dates. Every month, your creditor reports to the credit bureaus your account. If you are in the middle of a billing cycle, and how many of you use your credit cards to fund rehabs and do different things, right? If you have charged up your account and it's reported to the bureaus, you're going to have an artificially high balance, right? You're going to have an artificially low credit score because it's reported in the middle while you have a 30 or 50% balance on your card. So what you do, you call your creditor, call the credit dispute department. They're the only ones in most organizations that know when your credit reporting date is. They're not even going to understand, I promise you, they're not even going to understand your question. Yes, I'd like to know when you report my account to the credit bureaus. Okay, which account are you disputing? No, I'd like to know when you report this account to the credit bureaus. Okay, which account would you like to dispute? I mean, they can't even understand the question. Nobody asks the question because nobody cares about their reporting date, and so we blithely go along having an artificially low score because we don't know this rule to this game. So you go to the call the credit dispute department, get it through their head what you're asking for, and what you do is find out what date. Then call 2 more times. You want to verify 3 times that it's the same date. Trust me, if you call your regular customer service people, hey, when you report me to the bureaus? Oh, the 5th. Call them again. Oh yeah, that's the 17th. Call them again. Oh, hey, every 30th of the month. Call the credit dispute department and get it verified 3 times before you believe it. Then you call customer service and say, yeah, can I move my due date to 3 to 5 days before the reporting date? That way you get to pay off your credit card, and when you pay off your credit card, you get your balances down and your credit points back. You following me? You get your credit score points back. There's free points for you. Okay. Credit card strategy. This is one of my favorite ones. Okay. There's so much here that we're just not told. Okay. So in the example I'm going to use, every one of these accounts are worth a $5,000 limit, 10% balance, and they're 5 years old. So all things are the same. Okay. I'm going to say they're all the same except for this. Now, there are 4 categories of credit cards. We call them revolving lines of credit. Okay, 4 of them. There's Visa and MasterCards from national banks. These are all the banks with branches. They can be state banks or they can be or credit unions, but they have branches. All right. Then there's American Express, Discover, and Capital One. There is department stores that carry their own paper, meaning they're lending their own money for you to buy their goods and services. And finally, there's finance company cards, which everything in them all, from Victoria's Secrets to Home Depot, every single one of them is a finance company. You know what they're worth? Visa and MasterCard, let's say it's worth 100 points. Well, that American Express, Capital One, or Discover is only worth 80 points. You lose 20% of points by having that card instead of a Visa or MasterCard from a national bank. Department stores that carry their own paper, only worth 60 points. You lose 40% of the points. And here's where people come to me and, if you came to me and said, I've never missed a payment, no collections, no nothing, why do I have a 690 credit score? I'll tell you why. I'll almost guarantee you either have too many mortgages on your personal credit or you're carrying mall store cards. And you artificially cap your credit score by having those things. Now, do not go out and close those. Because here's what happened. One of my clients had a Home Depot. He was instructed as part of his program to delete or to close that card. Okay? He goes to a family barbecue. His score goes up like 12 points. His brother, he sees his brother at family barbecue. He goes, oh man, these guys are awesome, man. I closed this card. They told me to close this card. My score goes up 12 points. It was amazing. And so his brother goes out and closes his Home Depot card. Score dropped to like 20 points. He was pissed off. And he didn't understand why. The brother comes and asks, hey, my brother closed his card and we lost all these points. What's going on? And I said, ask your brother how old his card is. It was 10 years old. The brother's, our client's, was 6 months. So it has to do with the average age of what we call your revolving accounts portfolio. The collection of all of your credit cards and revolving accounts is what we call a portfolio. Your average age is extremely important, and you don't want to mess with that. So I'm telling you what the values are, I'm telling you why your scores are capped, but don't go out and just start closing them willy-nilly, because if you do, you're gonna hurt your score. All right? Next. Now, here's one of the things that happens all the time. You go to Target, Kohl's, many, they're all store cards, by the way. It's easy to ruin your credit, or better said, the people at Target or Kohl's or any of these places that say, hey, save 10% and ruin your credit today. Okay? They don't finish it out. In fact, we have it on film. I was on one of our trips. I was with my buddy Todd, who's a director at Credit Sense, and we went to the airport, and the guys at American Express were handing out, applications saying, "Oh, look, here's a teddy bear to take home to your granddaughter or whatever, if you apply." And I'm like, I walk up to him. Do you realize you're ruining people's credit? You're ruining people's credit. I'll tell you why you're ruining the credit. First of all, the inquiry is 6 to 15 point loss just for the pull, depending on where you are in the score pyramid, right? You're going to drop your score just for the inquiry, everybody across the board. Here's the problem. If it's Lowe's, American Express is an 80% card, but here's the thing. If it's a 40% card at a mall, that's where we get most of these offers, especially at Christmas, right? Oh yeah, just apply and get this. Well, it's a 40% card that's gonna cap your score. Here's the worst way you lose credit score points. You lower the average age of the revolving account. So let's take a look. Let's say you have Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and a Home Depot, and your average age is 25 months. You throw in a Target card in there, and all you have 0 months, so your average age is now 20 months, and you lose 20% in the average age of your portfolio because you took that 0 month card. You know what I mean by 0 month, right? They're not telling us really what's going on, right? So we don't want to do this, but you lose in every possible way. You lose. So remember the porcelain doll metaphor? Dress it up, put it on the shelf, let it sit there and be pretty, folks. You do not use your personal credit files. If you do, you're losing points, and there's a way to do it. So let's continue. Let's look at the loan strategy. Step 6. Another 5 to 15 points. You guys are going to love this. You'll never look at buying a car ever again the same. Okay. So installment loans are the ballast of your credit profile. You know what I mean by ballast, right? It's the weight in the bottom of a ship that come the storm or whatever, it doesn't sway back and forth. It's just solid, sinks right there in the water, right? Well, you want your credit profile to be resilient. Because remember how I say when you get an inquiry, it can be 5 points against you or 15 points against you, right? Sometimes even higher. The more ballast you have in the ship, the fewer the inquiries, the less of negative effect you have when you add new trade lines to your credit profile. But let's take a look at buying a car. Here's the unoptimized way. All right, this is the unoptimized way. Typical 6-year auto loan. Did you realize you get 40% of the points that are going to be delivered? Let's say there's 100 points you're going to get from your loan. You get 40 of those points after month 12. You get 30 more points for a total of 70 points out of the 100 by month 24. Then, over the next 4 years, you're splitting up 7.5 points. You get 100 points at the end of the loan, right? So, what do I teach my clients to do? Well, what you do is you go through and say, at month 24, I've gotten 70% of the points, I'm going to refinance my car and get a new loan, or refinance my student loan, or refinance. The only one that doesn't apply are mortgages. Mortgages are the sweet spots between 3 and 5 years. All other installment loans for that grand piano, whatever it is 24 months. So we do it again until month 48. We pick up another 70 points, and then the last 6, we pick up another 70 points. In the same period, the same 6 years, you're picking up 210% points, rather than the one by carrying the loan out all the way to the end. Am I making sense? You are actually playing the game the way it was designed, because most people know the way FICO works is, most people refinance sometime in 2 to 3 years, and that is a healthy way to re-engage the system, the economy, and people are, when they refi, it's usually for a lower rate, and so they're creating more and more payment consistency. FICO rewards that. Now that we know, let's play that game. See what I'm saying? So let's take a look at that same auto loan, but the actual purchase of it. Okay? Purchase price, $20,000. Down payment, loan value is $15,000. First payment is $500. I'm just going to make it easy. $500. Balance to loan ratio is 100%. first credit score points comes after 6 months. You don't even get credit. It reports, but you don't get score points until month 6 of any kind of loan. And then advanced credit score points 0. Now, this is an optimized car purchase, okay? What we do, purchase price is the same, down payment, nothing. We're gonna finance full $20,000, all right? But the loan value is therefore $20,000, it's higher here than this one, so it's worth more on your credit profile. And yes, folks, that Maserati is worth more on your credit profile than the Toyota you traded in for it, okay? So, loan value, $20,000. First payment, the same $5,000 that you do as the down payment. You make a loan payment, okay? What that does, balance to loan 75%. Any credit guys in here who says what the 75% loan to value? That's awesome on your credit report. 75%, I pray to all that's holy that we could all have 75% loan to or balance to loan ratios, okay? And then, first credit score points is at 6 months, but guess what? Depending on the lender, you may actually advance credit score points. Why? Because you paid 10 months worth of payments. You've paid 10 months worth of payments in advance. And unless you indicate that you want it going on the balance of the loan, what's all the default? Everybody says, do not pay, do not pay, do not pay, because you paid in advance. That's because they want to make all the payments. They don't want you to lower your balance. You have to actually indicate manually, oh, I would like this extra money to go to my balance. But if you don't elect for that, you will actually get, depending on the lender, because different furnishers treat it differently, but there are numerous popular the lenders, the Wells Fargo's, the cities of the world, advanced credit score points, and they will give you those points on that first payment. Does that make sense? You following me? Every one of those green areas means it's a huge increase in your credit score as a result of doing it that way. Now, finally, holy schmoly, that's the time. Okay, inquiry strategy. I'm going to tell you right now, the way FICO evaluates your inquiries is you are given a certain number of points for how many inquiries you get per bureau per year. The highest are 0. You get all the points if you have no inquiries. But if you're allowed 1 inquiry every 6 months to get the next highest rate, you're allowed 1 inquiry every 6 months for each of the 3 bureaus. If you're working with me, we actually show you how to raise your limits and get the loans, everything that you need, while you're staying within that 2 per year or once every 6 months. Finally, okay, let's just blaze through here. Okay, here we go, next. Here we go. Okay, be one of the 1%, not the 99%. Whose money does the 1% borrow to make their fortunes? Yes, the savings accounts of the 99%. Okay? So let's be part of the 1%, right? My commitment is to turn that into 2 or 3 or 4%. But you have all the possibilities. Make your standard of living and your quality of life go up. And the only way to do that, guys, my only definition of wealth is when your money makes more money than you can. That's wealth. When your money is your employee, okay? Except it's great when you hire other people's money to make more money than you can, right? When other people's money is your employee, you can have a vast field. And you know what? My whole banner says it out on my thing, out on my booth, but lenders throw money at 800 plus credit scores, period. There is no, I've given you every rationale for it. They only throw money. So, high quality of life, high standard of living. Here's my contact information. I'll take questions in the booth or otherwise. I have. Here's my deal for you. I normally charge $300 for a credit analysis. Part of the free, I offer those credit analyses. It's an hour-long review of your all 3 credit bureaus. There's no inquiry, no hard pull. All 3 credit reports, all 3 scores, an hour review of your credit profile to show you where your point loss is. if my services cost $3,000 for a single person, $5,000 for a couple, payment plans are available. If you don't see the value, don't talk to me. If you see what an 800 score can do, then you and I should partner on your credit profiles. If you give me a business card today, and if you may have already given me one, but if you give me a business card in this room, I will call you for a free credit analysis. We can figure out whether or not you're interested in doing something about it, but I will give you that free analysis to let you know. If you're interested, then let's do something about your credit profile. God bless, and I love Santa Barbara. All right, guys.
I want to say that Meryl drove all the way from Utah to be with us.
He's still driving, look at it.
I know.
You could have charged the ticket on your credit card.
Yeah, no. It's actually a great little vacation. I worked 12 hours in the car while my roommate, the beautiful woman at my desk, who's Stephanie at the back, she decided to be chauffeur, and I get to talk to clients. I'm talking the whole way.
Great.
So much. We love road trips, so
Yeah,
there you go.
wow.
But anyway, all right, we'll turn it over to our next guy.
Okay, thank you so much. He will be outside, back there for you guys. Get any questions or any help. We've got one more speaker. And, you know, we're going to have a quick little something here from Linda during that period of time.